In this video I'll run through a few new things in the 3D-5X module. So I'm working with version 2020.2.2262. So I'll just go ahead and align this here. So one thing they've done underneath the align, the rotate command, now they've added these quick buttons here to quickly rotate in 90 degree increments. Also, the apply button is active, so if you type in a number here and just hit enter, it'll do that, versus before you'd have to click on that apply button. And I'll just go ahead and move my 0 point to a top corner here of a box. Curves area, they've got the auto button, so part like this where it looks like I just need to pick top and bottom edges. If I do the auto, it'll find all those different edges there. And then they've added this button here to quickly get to the toolpath screen versus having to close and then click on the toolpath icon. You can just click right on the T to go into the toolpath area, start adding your toolpaths. There's the auto button here. Click on this to quickly add toolpaths. So it'll just take whatever settings that you've got and put your toolpath on there. And then they've made this show all box where it'll always default to where you left it. So if you leave it where it's unchecked, it'll keep that. I personally like to have that unchecked so I can just see the one that I'm working on. And then also these boxes here for the lengths of the lines and the spacing of these lines here. There's the change all, so if you decide you want to change the spacing of all these, click on change all and they will all be changed. And it'll remember those values. And I'll click on close. And then there's also down here the C button, which will bring you back to the curves area. So if you end up needing to pick additional edges, you can very quickly switch back and forth between those two areas. And then in the rapids area, they've added stop button here. So if you need to do a stop on your rapids, you can click on stop and put where you want the stop to be. So it'll come to that point and stop. Then also they've changed this height button here, so you click on height and you click on a rapid and you start moving it, just clicking and moving this up and down. It'll show you what height that is, and that's the height off the top of the table. So this material's 1/4 inch thick, so if I had this around 0.5, then that would be about a 1/4 inch lift between the cuts. So on the CAD tab, especially underneath the transform area, they've added some more shortcut keys for things like R for rotate and Shift M for mirror, X for explode. If you ever need it on the scale command, you can do math in here. So if this were drawn twice as big as it's supposed to be, you can do things, of course, like 0.5 for scale. For drawn in metric, you can do 1 divided by 25.4 and it would scale things down accordingly. Also on things like the rectangular array, if we're going to array something like this, you got pick buttons here, so you can use that to pick distances for X and Y. So if I do perpendicular to there for my X, and here to here for my Y, you can do things like that. Also on the extrude command, if you ever use this, there's now a pick button to pick a distance if you don't know what the distance is. So if I want to extrude this to the surface here, before you'd have to know what that distance was, now you can click on this and measure and pick the distance. And if you ever import another model into the current model that you're working with, it'll keep the current file name, where before it would change the name to whatever name was of the file was that you were inserting. So for example, if I import and grab this one here, so the file name stays. So I've got here bottom, where before it would have changed that file name to back, which sometimes if you're trying to make an assembly would get a little confusing because you could potentially end up overwriting the individual part file with the assembly name. So those are a few of the new things. Any questions, let us know. Thanks.